So I am with the renowned Aikido instructor, Lia Suzuki Sensei. So can we talk a bit, before we get into the how everything has changed and how we need to adapt, a little bit about your background. When did you, first of all, how did you hear about Aikido and when did you first get into it?
Ooh, I had been a competitive horse rider, and I was kind of a maniac. I was riding when I left off, which is a whole nother story. My trainer kind of dropped out of the scene and such. But when I left off, I was riding about 7 days a week, about 4 or 5 hours per day. And real hardcore, like the magic words were, you know, when somebody would say like, oh, I've got this horse that like nobody can ride. And I go, oh, wait, where's that horse? So I was real hardcore. And then for various reasons, my trainer had dropped out and I found myself going from 4 to 5 hours a day down to nothing. So I was just looking for a workout, really. And I went and checked out a few different martial arts. By checking out, I mean watched some classes. And now here's the drawback about me driving in the driver's seat here. I'm going to be distracted from time to time by letting more people in. So
that's fine.
That, but that's
you're the admin of this conversation, so
yeah,
everybody understands.
Thanks. So anyway, I just found myself jonesing for some endorphins. And adrenaline too, you know, because I was doing like the kind of hardcore riding. And so I watched a Kung Fu class, I watched a Tai Chi class, I watched a Judo class. And then I was sort of scratching my head. I kind of gave up because they didn't match like the Kwai Chang Caine, you know, Kung Fu TV show image that I had in my mind. And then I saw a poster for Aikido. The description sounded right. And a good friend of mine said, that's the one that you want. That's the good one. And I went, I watched a class. I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It looked so fake. I wasn't going to try it. And then again, my friend was like, no, this is really the good one. And I thought, well, you know, everybody was sweating. The teacher was saying stuff that like, you know, you could take the lessons off the mat and into the real world. And starting tomorrow, I have a 1-month Christmas break from college. I'm going to be bored. So I'll do this crazy fake martial art. But I'm just going to do it for a month. And then I'll find a real martial art. So that's how it started.
And was this in Pennsylvania?
This was in Pennsylvania, actually.
That's where I thought you were from.
Yeah.
So you started in Pennsylvania. Obviously, you liked it enough to go to Japan to train.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that and who you trained with there?
Sure. Well, I traveled a bunch. I did Aikido about 6 months in Pennsylvania. Then I traveled. Then I ended up in Boston, and I trained there for about 3 years. And Takeda Shihan from Yokohama came and did a seminar. And I was just blown away. And so at the time, I was teaching English as a second language also. And so I had these Japanese students, and I just became fascinated with the culture. And they would always say, oh, you know, you should come to Japan. You should come visit Japan. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I collected a bunch of invitations. And then, like I said, Takeda Shihan came, and he was just mind-blowing. And yeah, so I got a ticket after about a year or so. I got a ticket, and I was planning on going for like 2 weeks or something. And then I found myself transitioning in my job, and I got the visa that said 3 months, and I thought, okay, that sounds good. And you know, it's the time of my life where I think we all go through periods in our lives, usually when we're younger, where we go like, oh, okay, and we kind of get blown around by the wind a little bit.
Mm.
As we get older, we make more steadfast plans. So, yeah, so I went then with the intention of staying 3 months, but once I got there, I think after like a week or so, I found a job teaching English as a second language. And yeah, one thing led to another, and then it was 9 years.
You spent 9 years over there.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you did
Almost
you
to the day.
did you train at different dojos or primarily one?
My home dojo was Takeda Dojo in Yokohama with Takeda Shihan. I trained there 3 days a week. That's how many classes he offered. And then I would usually train at some of the dojos of his senior students who were 5th, 6th Dan at the time. Now they're 7th Dan. And of course, we would have special events with Yamaguchi Sensei and what was that wonderful man who I didn't take any of his classes, but he was in class when Yamaguchi Sensei would teach. Long mustache, liked Guinness. Anyway, he's passed away, but he was wonderful. I think he's been to England a bunch of times. So once we open it up to everybody, I'll ask, see if anyone.
Yeah, that name will come up.
Darn. Anyway, so I was very fortunate to be able to train with all kinds of people. When we would host Yamaguchi Sensei down at our largest dojo, which was in Kamakura, there were sometimes 100 or 200 people on the mat, and and my senpai would say, "Oh, you know, there's Sekiya Sensei, for example. Oh, there's Sekiya Sensei." So, you know, we've got a bunch of experienced people on the call here, I can see. So you know the trick. You know, if Sekiya Sensei's over there, 15 people away, you say "Onegai shimasu" to this person, whoever they are. And then when you finish training with them, you sit there. And then you say "Onegai shimasu" to that person, you know. So next, like after five techniques, I'm sitting next to Sekiya Sensei. So yeah, jockeying for position and, you know, chasing down the great training partners. This was exciting training for me.
That's terrific. So you speak Japanese and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were teaching up in San Francisco area, is that right?
No.
Or Ventura, where was it?
When I first came back from Japan, a couple of years in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But then I went to Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And then now you're in LA.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've visited you several times in Los Angeles because I lived in Los Angeles for a long time. We'll see if we're going back that way. But, but yeah, I was fortunate to meet you because at the time you were teaching at the Japanese Cultural Center and you had opened up, I think it was once a month or, yeah, you were doing like a black belt class for all, any affiliation, didn't matter what, which I thought was great. I really appreciated that. And my friend Corky was like, "Hey, let's go to this black belt class." I'm like, "Of course."
Nice.
Let's go. And so that was how you and I met. And I've attended a few of your classes since then also.
Yeah. And
so you wanted to talk about this dynamic of how, well, I'm going to put it in my own words. I think how things need to change a bit. Obviously, things throughout the world need to change, but how does Aikido need to change? And I would just suggest one thing right off the bat. All the dojo chos would be like, you have a policy is when you enter the dojo, you wash your hands. Yeah. Before you leave the dojo, you wash your hands. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah. And sorry, I forgot to click one more thing here.
Click.
Okay. Got that, I think. Again, sorry, I'm in the driver's seat. Yeah, things, I think things will never be the same again. You know, even once we come back a year from now, 2 years from now, things in the dojo will never be the same again. Things outside the dojo never be the same again. So I was picturing that the other day, just yesterday, I was thinking about that actually. When it is time, when I've decided that it's time to open the doors of the dojo again, how's that going to look, you know? And I pictured having a couple of the moms or my volunteers, you know, with like thermometers at the door, and I really don't know. This is what you're asking me, right? Like how things are going to be changed. How
It's
does
up to
everybody?
you. We can brainstorm ideas. I have a couple ideas myself. Some of them might be kind of unpopular, but it's okay to brainstorm.
Yeah, yeah.
But for
Well, and
example, go ahead.
sorry, I think the training. I mean, again, I could end up thinking back on my words today. I could think about them tomorrow and go like, oh, that was wrong, because everything is changing so quickly, so much, so quickly.
Right.
But um, you know, depending, that was you, okay. Depending on when we open and what the climate is like, I think that, you know, there'll be some sort of check at the door possibly. Before we closed, actually, we were having the kids, well, everybody, I was asking everybody to wash their hands as soon as they arrived,
Yeah.
and then wash their feet also. And I was, the day that we ended up canceling the kids' class, I had a bunch of beach towels that I was going to take in so they could wash their feet, step onto the clean beach towels, then into their shoes and over to the mat. But anyway, so that's going to have to be in place. We also had a plan, but then we ended up just going online. But our next class was going to be, one of our members was going to bring like 6 boxes of tissues, because we realized like you can't sneeze into your elbow, because the irimi nage, you're putting somebody's face in your elbow, right? So for Aikido, you'd have to go like, just a minute, and run over to the tissues and sneeze into a tissue. Anyway, and then the adults were, you know, washing their hands and feet when they came in too, hands and feet. And
I
we
like feet's
always,
better.
yeah. And we always wipe down the mats before and after, at the beginning of each day and the end of each night. We always wipe them down on our hands and knees with wet rags anyway.
Yeah.
So
Now,
that would stay in place.
this brings up a point that I wanted to talk about, and I apologize if this offends anyone, but things need to change. For example, when I first visited your class, you had what I told you about this before. I'm like, oh my God, those are the worst mats ever because of the covering they had. It was like this canvas covering. It was really rough. Now you have, I believe, the best mats I have ever trained on. They are awesome, awesome mats, and like unbelievably good mats. But now you have the kind that are easily disinfected.
Yeah.
So some dojos still do this canvas thing, and they're like sweeping it. And I always have said, like, how are you disinfecting your mats? I've been saying this for like decades.
Yeah.
And the dojos that don't have the canvas, they can disinfect it. The dojos with the canvas cannot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is something that I think everybody needs to talk about. What do you think?
Well, you know, being a bit of a traditionalist, I'm weird. I'm like a mixture between a traditionalist and an innovator. But anyway, the traditionalist in me, I mean, I had a canvas covering on my mats in Santa Barbara for a long time. They're really, it makes it really easy to pivot. That's really nice. So good for the knees. Probably the hips too, and ankles. And now I have these. These are softer. I don't really like the softness of these, and they're the most firm ones I could get from that company in the rollout style.
I love them.
They're very beginner friendly also, the slightly softer ones. So that's good too. And I don't know though. I mean, I haven't really heard too much about the canvas mats carrying fungus and everything, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so it does stand to reason that they would hold fungi and things like that more. But yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me, the reason that I got those rollouts was because they're not so off-putting to members when they come in and I go, okay, everybody, now that I've thrown you for 90 minutes, we're gonna lift up these heavy straw mats. Now I just say, okay, we're gonna roll these things up, wipe them down and roll them up. And that goes over a lot better with people. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, viruses and things are everywhere. They've always been everywhere. I mean, flu season comes every year and things like that.
Yeah.
We need exposure to microbes and things like that. That's how our immunity system builds. And Sensei would talk about how many people don't discuss this, but Aikido is also a health modality, and you can use it for health and building your immune system and things like this. A lot of things can do that, of course, not just Aikido. But I think I'm going to be actually interested, because I have a theory that I think dojo membership and dojo attendance is going to go up after the stay-home orders are no longer in place.
Oh, while we're still practicing social distance, you mean the online Aikido will go up, or do you mean after?
Oh, that too. But I'm saying when the stay-home orders are no longer in place, and the restaurants and things are reopened and things like that, and the gyms and the dojos are reopened, I think we're going to see an influx of attendance.
Yeah, that could very well be. I think it's reminding people of the value of relationships and the value of touch, interaction. So yeah, that could very well be. Yeah,
I think so. And it's going to be interesting to see the new folks who show up, because right now, if people are taking the time to do reading and research and a lot of watching online videos and things like that, and you can learn a lot from that stuff. There's a lot of value in what we're doing now, and the online modalities. It doesn't replace the face-to-face. It doesn't replace the human touch and the human connection.
Right.
But it definitely adds to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyway, continue with your thought on that.
No, I think that as I said, I think that this is a good reminder for everybody. The gratitude that I saw, especially like the first week that it happened, that when we had to close the doors, that first week that I was teaching classes online. And I started immediately, by the way. We have classes Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So we had our physical classes, those 3 days of, what was it, March 13th or something like that. And so the very next class, Monday, I was on Zoom. And I was like, even when I was doing Gasho in front of Sensei, ready to bow in, I thought, what am I going to do? Sensei, please help me. What am I doing here? And
did he come through?
Yeah, I made it through. The thing that really blew me away, like what I thought would be most appropriate and most helpful for people was, what I thought would be helpful for me was, first of all, starting off with a long gasho. I even hesitate to say meditation, because some people like to meditate, other people don't. But anyway, silence.
Clear the mind.
Clear the mind. So I did that maybe 5 minutes or so. And then I did an extended warm up.
Yeah.
And then I got a sword, a bokken, and I started like saying, hey, everybody, let's almost let it do a free fall. Let's really research how a sword moves as much as possible without you, right? So it was all meditative. And even though we did some cuts, I was telling people, to kind of break the rules, not hold it tight, but hold it loose so that we could really see how the sword moves with gravity, not so much with us. And then at the end, again, a long meditation, a long silence, maybe 5 minutes or so, which for me is long. And then about 5 minutes or so of just checking in with people and seeing how that felt to them. And before I even asked them, I said, wow, guys, I feel great. How's everybody doing? And I was just really moved and really happy that they had gotten so much out of that first Zoom class. And then I think it was after my second or third Zoom class that the theme was pretty much the same. Of course, a few details were different. I saw, somebody's right shoulder is collapsing a little, so I corrected that, or, whatever. But it was kind of the same lesson plan. And I checked in at the end. I always check in with everybody at the end. And I checked in and I said, guys, this just feels good to me. At the end of this, every time I feel good, and I could be doing the same lesson plan every time, and it would be really rewarding for me. But how does everybody feel about that? And they all said yes. They said, yeah, keep doing this. Thank you so much. Thank you. I never heard thank you so much from my students. Everybody thanking me for doing this. Karen's laughing about something. When I unmute everybody, I'll find out. So.
Okay, I'll say in about 7 minutes, we're going to unmute everybody. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Because that will be a half an hour of you and I talking, and everybody else wants to chime in too. But
sure.
Everything that you've said so far, I think, is very valuable, and I can actually feel the appreciation coming forth. And that's what I think what you said is that everybody is like the appreciation that we feel for each other, the new sense of appreciation we're going to have when we come back to each other. Yeah. Hopefully, resentments and things like that will be like, oh, well, that was nothing to get up in arms about. Let's restart. This is giving everybody a chance to start again, to start with a new attitude. Yeah. That's what's most important to me anyway in Aikido, is attitude, is the attitude that comes through. So anyway, well, first of all, thank you for having your online Aikido classes.
Sure.
And other folks are doing it as well. You've already given us some really good ideas. Can you give any more ideas while we still have a few minutes?
Well,
somebody says, how the heck do I do an online Aikido class? You've already given really good ideas. Do you have anything more to say?
I think for me, I remind myself that what I want to give everybody is the opportunity to generate some endorphins, and I remind myself that it doesn't have to be flashy or deep. Even it just has to get people to move, because everybody's sitting in front of a screen all day. Maybe some people are out doing some things, but I think right now the best gift you can give people is some peace of mind and also endorphins. So if you can get their body moving, then I think that's a great gift. And then, sorry, one other thing, connection. So right now we've got somebody I think living in Italy, and then we've got Switzerland, and I'm not even sure where Corey's from, Cliff from the Bay Area, another English person. So in my Zoom classes, now I've had people from Romania, Ireland, the Netherlands. Did you know that there's a country called Mauritius? Well, I didn't know that. Now I do. So all these different people have joined who maybe never would have ever visited my dojo.
Yeah.
But at the end of the Zoom class, my students get to say, oh, where are you from? How long have you been training? And we all introduce ourselves. And so it's connection. as well. So
Yes.
yeah, the endorphins for the endorphin high, and some peace of mind and some human connection. And
You also just touched on something that's very important, because there are Aikido masters and really good folks out there that are putting videos up on YouTube and other platforms, and it is great to watch that. But someone doing a live session,
yeah,
you feel like, wow, this is actually a live interaction with this person who I would very much like to meet in person, and maybe you will at some time. But you've already gotten this amazing opportunity.
yeah, yeah, and you created a relationship, and and this guy from Mauritius is saying, "Thank you so much, Sensei," and I'm like, "Wow, I helped somebody in Mauritius is grateful for what I did for him." I'm like, "Wow," and that feels good to me too. That's
Yes.
my gift, that I get to feel good about that.
Re-emphasizes that we're all one family.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I have any more. I would like to hear what other folks have to say. What do you think? Shall we unmute the folks?
I was just thinking that, yeah. Let me jump back in the driver's seat. Here we go. Unmute. Okay, that's it. You guys are all unmuted. And by the way, Cliff, we only see your photo. We don't have video of you.
And there's a reason, Sensei, for that.
Uh-huh.
And that is I'm still eating breakfast.
Okay, no problem.
We all have great hair right now.
And I haven't shaven, et cetera, but we'll see.
No problem, no problem.
Thanks.
Anyway, sure. It's so great to see everybody. Kath, I'm so glad to see you. And Catherine, so wonderful to see you. John, I know that we've communicated some on Facebook. Corey, this might be the first time that we're meeting.
Yes, it's a great pleasure to meet you and hear you live. I was real excited when Tom invited me to this event.
Nice.
I've been hoping to someday go out to LA too. I live in Texas, in the Austin area. So.
Oh yeah, you got to come out.
Yeah, Tom and I know each other kind of through Corky, who has also mentioned you as a wonderful Aikidoka, and that someone who he enjoys practicing with. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, I recommend it. I mean, go ahead, whoever's talking.
Lia, you were just saying, if and when we get back onto the tatami, a year and a half's time, well, I was thinking of retiring last year anyway, because I'm 72 now, and I've had 51 years on the mat. With only a 6-month break.
wow.
And with you saying, I find it quite scary with you saying things will never be the same on the mat. I find that quite uncomfortable. And I'm just wondering whether to just stick to making a few videos and banging them out. I never wrote a book on Aikido, my life in Aikido, but I made a lot of short films. So the films are my book. But I feel quite uncomfortable about the fact that they're saying that things will never be the same.
Yeah.
And what things we're going to have to put in effect to get people back on the mat. The health and safety regulations will probably all change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds cliche, but change is always uncomfortable. No one needs to remind us of that. A psychologist told me one time, he said, we prefer familiar problems over unfamiliar solutions. So we like to go back to what's familiar. And I'm not saying that the ways things will change will all be good and that I'll be comfortable with them. Coming back from Japan to the US, still there's a lot of things that are like fingernails on the chalkboard for me. I mean, little things even, somebody's, I mean, what other people would think are little things. If somebody's a minute late for it just drives me crazy. Karen's smiling, she knows. Or, you know, somebody chatting while we're doing some after training, you know, when we're doing the atogeko and people are socializing over here. It sort of disrespects the people. Anyway, so these are ways that I've had to adapt somewhat coming back to the US. So this is just another thing that, you know, I'll figure out how much I want to adapt to this or that, or what's the proper adaptation for me, you know, in this new climate. So yeah, I'm not comfortable either, John. And
Well, things were very different when I started in 1968.
yeah,
I was doing jiu-jitsu, and at the end of the lesson, an Aikido instructor walked onto the mat. His name was Chiba Sensei.
yeah,
And he chose Miyazuki because I was quite flexible at the time. I was only 21 when I started.
wow,
And that started me off with my Aikido. And Chiba Sensei stayed until 72 before he went back. And things were very different then. And the mats that you were talking about then, the old white fast mats, canvas over straw matted area.
mm,
They picked up an awful lot of dirt then and blood off
yeah,
people's cuts.
yeah,
So they would be quite unhygienic nowadays, obviously.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Could I, I'm not, I guess I'm not as, I don't know if it's pessimism or I'm not as pessimistic over the long term about dramatic hygienic changes required. I guess I'm no expert either. I'm not a medical professional or anything, but my sense is once, as we sort of reasonably expect, a vaccine is widely available, people even older than me can get a vaccination. I don't see why the practices, the sort of normal practices, need to be altered dramatically. I can see there's sort of general issues like someone like Tom thinks just generally we should be more hygienic. And that's a discussion to be had as well. But I mean, sort of as sheer necessity, I mean, someone, you know, in this particular disease, the older we are, the more susceptible we are to, you know, severe symptoms and even death. So over the shortish term, let's say within roughly a year, 6 months to a year, I can see, I guess what I'm thinking is before there's a vaccination widely available and or some medicine, antiviral, that more or less lowers the mortality rate by dramatic factors, if such a thing comes up. Even cleaning the mat, I don't see how, if you're susceptible, you know, if you're risking death just going out there with largest groups of people. Yeah. But once after that phase, the kind of phase I was thinking Tom was talking about, it's not obvious to me why we should think, you know, the world is going to be different where everyone's always washing their hands and wearing masks from then on or anything like that. Yeah. Right.
Actually, thanks for bringing me back to that. I kind of got sidetracked on the hygiene theme, and what I was thinking yesterday when I was like, oh yeah, what are the impacts for the future of the Aikido community? I was thinking more along the line, what came to me first was this idea of online training. And, you know, again, having somewhat of a traditionalist in me, but also the innovator. The traditionalist for quite some time was saying, you know, I'm not going to make videos of Aikido. Those who, you know, the keyboard warriors who just watch videos and you know, have these opinions about, you know, what they would do or could do because they're sitting at their desk. I don't want to be one of those people. But then I saw the value of it as long as it's used as a supplement to people's real training. And, but I think there's a lot of people who resist any online resources, creating any online resources or using them. And those people, I've seen some people do an about face now because of this health crisis. You know, people who never would have considered doing online training, going, well, yeah, maybe there's a way. So, and I want to give Karin and also Kath, of course, I want to give you guys a chance to chime in. Karin trained with me when, Karin? Back in 2000? Yeah.
20 years.
Wow.
But, well, and then three years ago, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, she came for a visit in LA. Yeah. Wonderful. And Karin has her own yoga studio. And from what I see online, it looks like you've created a wonderful, cohesive community there. So I'm also curious about your yoga studio and what's going on, and if and how you're keeping the community engaged. And I'm curious about that.
I laughed before because I hear a lot more thank yous than before as well. So that's why I was laughing at that. Nice. And I also reminded myself of the conversation we had 3 years ago. Remember in the parking lot when we talked about tradition?
Yeah.
Where we said, like, well, when you bring these types of tradition to the West, you kind of have to adapt it, because the students are not just students, but also customers. And I'm actually quite glad we had that conversation, because I had the same feeling for the whole yoga community. And now I'm happy that I already adapted, because now it's easier for me to adapt again. I was the same. I'm not going to go online. Why should I go online? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And now I'm quite glad I did it. We really used momentum and just did it. And I just checked the numbers. We had about 1,000 students over the past 3.5 weeks. Wow. Run about, well, not the full schedule, but people are so grateful. And in miraculous ways, the connection through internet works. Like, it's quite a deep connection. It's not just a superficial one. Yeah. And our community is quite strong together. So that's really something nice to see. But of course, I also wonder how, we do have mats, so I can kind of measure the space, and we'll have to let in less people, so there is not direct contact.
Yeah.
So we're not struggling with that. But what I just also thought, the outer world, whether it's from the perspective of Aikido or yoga or any perspective really, the outer world is always changing, always will. And I think in these times especially, and that's what I also teach, is that's when you really know if your practice, whatever it is, if it really works. Yeah. If you balances you out, if it gives you what you need versus what you want. Yeah. So I think I take this momentum of this weird situation as well to actually teach them a little bit more what they need and not only what they want, and really make them aware of their perspective matters. Wow. And to all the shadows, that there's also a light side. So like, as you just said, like, you get a lot more thank yous, and people appreciate it more, value things more. And I still find it quite surreal, the whole scenario. I have no idea how it looks like we might be opening up June, July. We don't have an idea yet. Yeah. But it will be all with less people, of course, and probably even keep some online stuff. Great thing happens. My mom turned 70. She's now practicing yoga with me. Never has. So like, this is great. Wow. Yeah. So I think like the value changes in a good direction. So there's positivity about that. And really, like, you realize if what you practice really works. Yeah. Yeah. And momentum, it's a theme in yoga, it's a theme in Aikido. So yeah, all these lessons are still with me, Sensei.
Nice, nice.
By the way, I think you referred about the 1 minute late because I'm from Switzerland, not because I was late, right?
That's right. Yeah, no, I don't ever remember you being late, but yeah, my students, when a new student would come, usually the senpai would say, never be late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and by that I mean be on the mat warming up at least 5 minutes before bowing. I was
Right.
a tyrant. So, and I want to hear from Kath too. Kath, I think
Hi.
you're in touch with a lot of different dojo cho. I'm not really even sure.
Yeah, so I'm English, but I live in Ireland. Don't have my own dojo, so I just untrain. And I mean, I think I kind of agree with Corey. I think in the longer term, it may be. I mean, it depends how quickly we get over and whatever that actually kind of looks like. You know, but in the short term, we start thinking about how do we go back to work. How do we go back to Aikido or yoga or, you know, and, you know, even I think, okay, so if I'm traveling into town for a class, I'm going on public transport and I'm thinking, you know, I don't know if I want to go on public transport. And even, you know, as we gradually start to move from greater being more restricted in our movements to, you know, to being told, yeah, actually we can start to go out or some people can, or in some areas, do I want to go on public transport? So for dojos who are the reopening, you think, okay, we're open for business, but actually, can our students get here?
Yes.
You know, and then I think there's, you know, for some things. In fact, I know a colleague of mine in England, Eddie McCalla, John. I don't know if you know Eddie McCalla or not in Birmingham. I mean, he was only doing weapon classes. So before he had to close, he was only doing weapons, and even then some students wouldn't come. They'd said, actually, we don't think this is really safe now, you know. And so it's how we can move to a situation where intrinsically we're grabbing each other, we're sweating on each other, you know, as you said, Lia, coughing into your elbow. As you said it, I thought, I'm going to cough into somebody else's knee. That'll be safe. Bit weird, but safe.
I think coughing into someone else's knee, I think that would kind of be along the lines of a yoga stretch or something, right?
There we go.
I was thinking right there. It's like, wow, flexible.
Flexible, yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to be different. I think when I think about what does Aikido look like at the moment, and you talk about, you know, say going back to work and maintaining some social distance, and maybe we all wear masks in the street to get to and from work, and blah, blah, blah. But Aikido specifically is difficult.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to say tennis.
Yeah.
You know, you can stand on opposite sides of the net. You know.
Yeah.
Really difficult. But I agree with Corey. I think in the longer term, once we're over this, but that longer term could be a year. It could be a year. And I wonder, I said to my partner earlier today, actually, I wonder how many students won't come back. I mean, there'll be the hardcore people, probably us who are here, who can't wait to get back in the dojo. But there'll be others who will, think, God, I'm a bit unfit now. You know, I've done nothing now for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. I've done nothing. I don't feel I can get back. Or I don't feel it's quite safe. And I think there'll be a number of students. So I'm not sure I agree with Tom when he says that he can see a number increase. I'm not sure I think that. Maybe in the very long term, maybe yes. But in the short term, I don't know that I'd be starting something that involves me grabbing hold of somebody and being sweated all over.
That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah. Huh.
I would like to say two things. First of all, I would like to say, and forgive me if I mispronounce your names, is it Mr. Stacco?
Yes.
I really hope you write a book. I can see it in your eyes. I really hope you do write a book. I would read that book.
A long time. Yes.
And the other name, is it Anne Slui?
Yeah, she just joined.
I'd like to hear from you. I think you have something valuable to say.
Yeah.
I have to mute first. Hi.
Hi.
I'm I just had my dinner. I'm from the Netherlands, so the time schedule is a little bit different. I don't know if I have a lot interesting to say. I just like to join, thinking about the lockdown and what happens with Aikido, if we can or cannot continue the usual way. I think it's interesting to think about it. Of course, we always have the weapon classes that we can always continue, even if it's in the park or not. But if it's a long term, like a year, like just been said, then it might be more difficult to, keep the students coming to Aikido. So I was more thinking if like online classes or the things that we learn now, are we going to apply that for, in the development in Aikido later on? Or is it just a moment that we use it for, for this this situation?
Well, I'm thinking when I come back, when I open up my classes, one idea is for me to continue the lesson plans that I've been doing online right there in the dojo for a couple of reasons. One, it's all individual practice, so there's no contact. And I think that people, like Kath was saying, I think people are going to be a little bit leery of grabbing a hold of each other and sweating on each other. So that's the one thing. And then the other is, actually, I think Kath said this one too, was the fact that we're out of shape. I went for a walk to the post office the other day, and I was like, whoa, I never
put that hill there.
My legs. It was a half a mile, and I'm like doing squats in front of Zoom camera, but still, anyway. So for that reason too, I think my classes coming back are probably going to look pretty different than when we stopped. So yeah, it'll have that effect coming back. I'm curious also to know, and sorry, your first name is Anna Sui?
No, my first name is Anne.
Anne,
Slu
okay.
The last name.
I'm curious to know, Anne, do you have a dojo? Are you an instructor, or where? How is this affecting you and Aikido? Like, are you a student whose sensei has said, sorry, you can't come back, or are you, oh my gosh, how do I keep my dojo community, my students together?
Well, first of all, I have a dojo here with my brother, so we do it together.
Nice.
We start at the same time, so somehow we still work together. And we have a dojo for many years now. We started very young, so basically we have to deal with the situation as any other dojo members will. In the Netherlands we have to deal with how they call it, an intellectual lockdown. So there is a little bit of freedom, but like we still are allowed to go out, and so it's not like France or Spain, it's not very restricted, but at the same time we're not allowed to practice. And I think, well, next week they will give us an announcement, and I think they want to make the first steps going back to the 1.5 meter distance kind of society. So we are most of the time we are just thinking about how can we rebuild the classes, and also we're doing, of course, the online trainings. Most of the times we do it not, of course, to improve really the technical part, but more the social part, to reconnect and calling people and just making sure they're healthy and happy. And so we're really working on how can we efficiently and bring everyone back in the dojo, because you can feel sometimes that people are all over the place. So they are one is really distracted in work because they're working in the hospitals, and the other is really working with the kids at home, and so you can feel that there's a lot going on. And we try to center everything a little bit back to giving them a little bit more peace and center. But we don't have our own space dojo, because that's a little bit harder here in Europe. So we rent places. We have our own academies, but it's rented places. So we also have to deal with, the government when they open the place or not. So we cannot. We have a little bit less flexibility in that way.
I see. Huh. Yes, John.
Maybe when we do get back, it might be a good idea to have the very first lesson in Mai, distance keeping.
Yeah, perfect.
That would be an easy lesson to have, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it?
Mai.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a possibly strange question, but I recently noticed in my own case, I watched some Aikido videos that I hadn't seen in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I noticed a lot of new details that I hadn't before. And I have a sense that the more we learn, the more we can discern interesting details from just watching video without actually touching someone. And I wanted to hear from some much more experienced people, or I'd be interested in hearing if they have a similar sense that they can just watch now some master and pretty much see exactly what they're doing, or if it's always there still always seems to be something missing. Or anyway, if anybody would like to say anything about that, I'd like to hear something about it. It's pertinent to these times where we have to, if we're going to learn, some of it may be from just watching video, for example.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say that first of all, it depends on the person that we're watching, to be kind of harsh. When I watch someone like Yamaguchi Sensei, so just yesterday we had a dojo happy hour, and Cliff was asking me about Yamaguchi Sensei. And the thing about Yamaguchi Sensei was that it oftentimes looked like nothing was happening and a lot was happening. So, some videos you watch and it's a more basic kind of movement, and maybe that person hasn't developed to that high of a level yet. And so what you see is more, right foot here and the left foot there. But then you watch someone like Yamaguchi Sensei, and when you first watch him when you first start training and you don't have such a high level of self, you do indeed see the right foot, the left foot. Oh, and then he puts his hand there. He mute somebody here. Okay. But then as you train more and you watch that same video with, for example, Yamaguchi Sensei, you notice things like his expansion in his chest at this moment, and then shifts in his chest, and people like Ikeda Shihan, they're trying to actually show that as well, give us sort of a framework that we can work with for the internal things. But yeah, Yamaguchi Sensei didn't spell that out, and so the longer you train, the more you develop your own Aikido, definitely, in my opinion, the more you can see in the videos, especially of those really high-level masters.
Mm.
Yeah.
I tend to think that watching your own instructor, it depends upon your level, but I agree entirely with Lia, and I think it's easy to watch a video and think you're seeing something and it's actually not quite what's happening, or just missing what's there, because how can you be expected to spot it?
Yeah.
For me, I think there's value for students in looking at a video of their own instructor where it's material that's familiar and they can almost imagine the commentary that goes with it and the feeling that goes with it.
Yeah.
But I also think the core of that, I think, we're in difficult times, and in some ways we're all trying to find ways of of doing Aikido that doesn't involve being in a dojo with people. And so there's a whole kind of wealth of material out there. So with the dojo in Dublin, we have a group of people, and we start off doing 100 sword cuts a day. We're up to 250 now, which isn't a lot in and of itself, but the discipline of doing it every day and then exchanging a few emails. Now, we haven't gone down the road of having any video, but actually just exchanging emails, and some of which are just not that interesting, but sometimes and I've taken the chance to I know some people do routinely swap their hands. They'll do their cuts the other way around, and I've never done that. I thought, right, I'm going to try and get to grips with this. But for me, just 10 minutes every day of cutting the wrong way around is quite an interesting thing that I would never be doing if it wasn't for this. Yeah. So I guess it's a small enough thing, but I guess ways you can train in your own home. Yeah. In your own garden. Yeah.
Your mind.
Stretching us, isn't it? It's really stretching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the, when I watch videos, as I've trained more and more in Aikido, there are certain things that I'm looking for in myself that I'm looking to see, is this demonstrator doing those things? Like the degree to which they're using their whole body as they move through a person, rather than just doing this kind of thing with their arms, flapping their arms around. So if it's an arm flapper, I tend to move on to another Aikido demonstration. So there are certain, and I'm just realizing this, there are things I look for in myself, what's their posture as they move through the person, how much muscle strength are they using when they take their, partner down. And that's why I really loved Yamaguchi Sensei. He just moved in certain ways that for me are sort of magical, and when I watch him, I still don't really understand what he's doing. It's just at this level that and maybe I could learn to watch and see what he's doing, like you were saying, Lia Sensei. What's his angle with the other person's body? I mean, most senseis or demonstrators, I know what to look for and I see, but he was just in a different space. So actually, maybe why don't I just ask? What do you look for, Lia Sensei, in when you watch Yamaguchi Sensei?
I'm always impressed by his posture and his expansion. He, even when the eyes go down, he keeps this posture. He never goes like that, but the eyes go down, but this is still really expanded and beautiful posture. There are some certain technical things that I see. Sometimes they go, oh, I see, he did Tenkan there. I see how that worked. Cool. But mostly, and again, I've taken Ukemi from him. So that makes it completely different, actually. Sort of along the lines of what Kath was saying, I see him do, for example, the Shomanuchi Ikkyo that I talked about yesterday, this really abbreviated one, not where it comes over the head, but just straight in. I see him do that with somebody in a video and I go, oh my God, because I remember feeling that weight drop on me. So yeah, I do look, in fact, I remember one time I thought, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to teach sword takeaway today. I forgot, maybe I was doing a seminar or something, black belt class or something. And I thought, wait, what's that one, And I got on YouTube and I looked it up, and up came Yamaguchi Sensei doing some sword takeaway. And so, in that case, yeah, I was looking for some technical things like, wait, which hand? Oh, it's the inside hand. Okay, got it. But at the same time, I'm just, I meant to just get on YouTube and see which hand and which foot was forward and this and that. And I ended up, 20 minutes with this one 3-minute clip, like, whoa. And the things that keep me engaged in times like that are just his presence, his posture, his expansion, and fluidity.
Well, so then you're sort of, I mean, it's sort of hinting now at maybe one of the potentials for this COVID-19 period where we're all, stuck at home and maybe watching Aikido videos. So maybe one thing is to just learn internal practices. So if you're watching Yamaguchi Sensei, look for the shoulders back. And then stop watching the video, walk around the house, feel the shoulders back, come back to the video, watch how he moves.
Good point.
So that might be one way to kind of incorporate some of the principles into our bodies during this period.
Yeah. I think right now there's everybody had this curveball thrown at them, so they're trying to figure out how to do stuff online. And what I'm seeing a lot of is instructors bringing people into their heads, so to speak. Like, okay, we're going to put our right foot here, and then we're going to do this. And Cliff has been with me for a few online classes now, and I've done the sword and the Jo, and I give a few steps. Okay, now the right foot forward and this, that, but I keep bringing it back to the meditative side of these movements. And so I think that's really valuable, or at least I'm attracting the types who think that this is valuable. I think what's valuable is to not to give people more to think about so much, but again, the endorphins. How do we just get people moving and get them into their bodies and sort of empty the brain a little bit, because we're just sitting around thinking all day, or in our computers working at home and all of that. So I think that's really refreshing for people. So that's a wonderful point. Like, hey, look at my video. I don't know if everybody has seen, but for example, I've got this virtual dojo now, collection of like 200 videos. And I haven't really said explicitly, watch this, and then your homework is X, Y, Z. So that's a wonderful point. Okay, here's this video, but you're stuck at home. So what about Yamaguchi Sensei's posture? How about if you walk to the kitchen with that sort of posture? And, that's...
Yeah, because generally when we're in the quote unquote normal times, I watch Yamaguchi. Oh, that's really cool. And then I walk into the kitchen, get some food, or leave the house, and there's no discipline. I haven't really worked on incorporating some principles that I just watched in that video.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm just realizing this now. So maybe this COVID-19 period is an opportunity for that.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing for me to make some sort of online thing to, supplementary ebook to go along with some of my videos.
Yeah, what are we looking for when we watch certain senseis? I trained with Duran Shihan, and boy, he had posture that, when he turned. And so that was important for me, just the way he would move. Right. And so again, just learning to try to incorporate some of that. Yeah.
Well, Tom, I don't know if we had like an end time for this or anything. I am leaving it to you to steer us or stop us or whatever. But
I think yes, we are at the 65-minute mark, and yes, my mic is unmuted, so I muted myself. We'll do some closing thoughts. I would like to give Lia Sensei a personal endorsement, because I have traveled around to a lot of dojos, and my way of Aikido is actually quite different than Lia Sensei's, but I find it very valuable. She has a very elegant way of doing things, and this online opportunity is going to give us an opportunity to branch out and try other instructors. I think that's a great opportunity. And anyway, that's a personal endorsement for me, as someone who likes to go around and travel and meet different instructors, and there are some good ones out there. Los Angeles has a lot of choices. I've been to most of those dojos there, and I would say you're kind of hard pressed to find a bad one. But definitely, if you're in Los Angeles, visit Lia Sensei because it's unique. It's good. I find it valuable.
Thank you. I wanted to say also, there's been some confusion. I've got something that I call the virtual dojo, and then I'm also doing the Zoom classes. So some people have signed up for my virtual dojo, which is about $15 a month, expecting that then they would get onto my Zoom classes, but they're two separate things. And if you're interested, I can send you a link for that. And you know, you get to, my Zoom is set up so that you can do a free class, and then I've got intro packages, and it could be interesting for some, you know, for those of you who have your own dojo. I'm really fine if you take the you know, the structure that I've put in place and use it, you know, on your own or something, if you want to copy that. But anyway, yeah, the virtual dojo is separate from the Zoom classes because I made the virtual dojo back in 2017. So yeah, so if you're interested in either one of those things, let me know, and I'll steer you in the right direction for what's right for you. So
Very good. Was there anything that I or nobody else brought up that you would like to mention before we go?
I can't think of it. I can't think of anything. After I hit end meeting, I'll probably think of something.
Yeah, and we'll have to do another one.
Yeah, perfect. But I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in, and it's really nice to see everybody. And like Cutting said, you know, it's I was so surprised the first time that I did these Zoom sessions. I was surprised at the intimacy, if you will. I thought it was going to be kind of a superficial relationship, but it wasn't, and that has continued. So it's really wonderful to see everybody here and get to meet you virtually for those of you who I didn't know before. So thank you. And thank you very much, Tom, for proposing this idea and for steering us through.
Yes, you are actually the first. You are the first. Next week, I'm going to have a chat with a totally different topic, but Aikido with Miles Kessler. But I'm very honored that Lia Suzuki Sensei is the first of these discussions.
Thank you. All right.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye.
for coming.
Thank you,
Leah.
Sensei.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.